So I've been living in this apartment for almost 2 years now. It's a decent place, all things considered, and I've made it my own little sanctuary. When I first moved in, I was excited about the possibilities, the chance to start fresh in a new space. I spent weeks decorating, making sure everything was just right so it felt like home. It's nothing fancy, just a simple one-bedroom, but it's mine. I've filled it with things I love, books, plants, and little trinkets I've collected over the years. It's my safe space, the place where I can relax and be myself after a long day. Quiet neighborhood, decent rent, and up until recently, I had no real complaints. The neighbors were friendly, the building was well maintained, and everything was generally peaceful. I always felt safe and secure in my little bubble, but that sense of security has been shattered. It all started about 2 weeks ago. That's when things started to get strange, unsettling. I can't quite explain it, but there was a shift in the atmosphere, a feeling of unease that I couldn't shake off. That night I got up around 2 a.m., couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning for hours, my mind racing with thoughts and worries. Finally, I gave up and decided to get out of bed, hoping a glass of water or a change of scenery would help me relax. I walked past the hallway, the entrance to the abyss of my apartment. The darkness seemed deeper than usual, the shadows more pronounced. I remember feeling a shiver run down my spine, a primal instinct telling me something was wrong. And that's when I saw him. A figure lurking in the shadows, a presence that sent a jolt of fear through my entire being. It was like something out of a nightmare, a figment of my imagination come to life. He was just standing there, motionless, like a statue carved from the darkness itself. His presence filled the hallway, suffocating me with an overwhelming sense of dread. I couldn't tear my eyes away, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. Tall, impossibly tall, completely still. He towered over me, his form elongated and distorted by the shadows. It was as if he was stretching towards the ceiling, trying to touch the very limits of the space he occupied. No sound, no breathing. Just watching me. His gaze was intense, piercing through the darkness and locking onto mine. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if he could see into my very soul. It was the most unsettling feeling I've ever experienced. I called out, "Hey man, what are you doing here?" My voice trembled, barely a whisper, but I had to say something, anything, to break the silence and try to make sense of what I was seeing. I thought maybe my roommate had come back early from his trip. Maybe it was just him, playing a prank or sleepwalking. It was the only logical explanation I could come up with in that moment of panic. But then I remembered. My roommate was out of town. He wouldn't be back for another week. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and the fear intensified. If it wasn't him, then who was it? What was it? I blinked, just for a second, gone, vanished into thin air as if he was never there at all. The hallway was empty, the shadows still, and the silence deafening. I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just sleep-deprived, hallucinating from exhaustion. It was the only explanation that made any sense, the only way to rationalize what I had just witnessed. The next day I tried to put it out of my mind to convince myself it was just a bad dream. But then, I heard footsteps. Faint, but definitely there. Not loud, not aggressive. Just soft pacing in the hallway as if someone was walking back and forth, lost in thought. It was a subtle sound, but it was enough to send a shiver down my spine. But when I checked, no one was there. The hallway was empty, just as it should be. The footsteps had vanished, leaving no trace of their presence. It was starting to feel like I was losing my grip on reality. That night I locked my bedroom door, just in case. I know it sounds silly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to protect myself, to create a barrier between me and whatever was lurking outside. At around 3 a.m. I heard it again. The witching hour, they call it. A time when the veil between worlds is thin, when strange things happen, slow, heavy, footsteps. This time they were different, more deliberate, more menacing. Each step echoed through the apartment, sending vibrations through the floor and into my very bones, getting closer to my door. The footsteps were getting louder, closer, more insistent. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my breath catching in my throat. Then, the doorknob started turning, slowly, deliberately, as if someone was testing the lock, seeing if it would hold. The sound was amplified in the silence of the room, a chilling prelude to what was about to come. I whispered, "Who's there?" My voice was barely audible, a desperate plea for reassurance. Silence. Only the sound of my own racing heart filled the room. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. It was my only weapon, my only source of light in the encroaching darkness. When I turned the flashlight on, no one was there. The hallway was empty, bathed in the harsh light of my phone. The doorknob was still, the footsteps gone. but the feeling of dread remained, lingering in the air like a thick fog. Over the next few days, the sightings became more frequent, more intense. I started seeing him more and more often, in different places around the apartment. It was like he was becoming bolder, more confident in his presence. Sometimes in the hallway, lurking in the shadows, watching me as I walked by, I would catch a glimpse of him out of the corner of my eye, a fleeting shadow that disappeared as soon as I turned to look. Sometimes in the bathroom mirror, standing right behind me, his reflection a distorted and menacing version of my own. It was the most terrifying thing I could imagine, seeing him there, so close yet untouchable. But every time I turned around, he'd be gone, vanishing into the air, leaving me questioning my sanity. Was I really seeing him, or was it all in my head? I thought I was losing my mind. The stress, the lack of sleep, the constant fear, it was all taking its toll. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. I called my best friend Mike and told him everything. I needed someone to talk to, someone to confide in. I was desperate for reassurance that I wasn't crazy. Mike said I was just stressed, maybe not sleeping enough. He tried to offer logical explanations, to downplay my fears. He couldn't understand what I was going through, but he was trying to be supportive. He agreed to crash at my place for a couple nights. He said he'd keep me company, help me relax, and prove that there was nothing to be afraid of. You know, to prove that I wasn't alone in seeing this thing. To have a witness, someone who could validate my experience and confirm that I wasn't just imagining things. That night, it got worse. Much worse than I could have ever anticipated. The fear escalated, the presence intensified, and the line between reality and nightmare blurred beyond recognition. We stayed up, waiting, just talking, trying to keep our minds occupied, watching TV, flipping through channels, anything to distract us from the growing sense of dread. Nothing happened for hours. The apartment was quiet, the night was still. We started to think maybe I was wrong, maybe it was all just in my head. Mike finally said, "Dude, there's nothing here. Maybe you need help. Maybe you should talk to someone, get some professional advice." Then suddenly, thump, thump, thump. The sound echoed through the apartment, shattering the silence and sending a jolt of fear through both of us. Heavy footsteps in the hallway, the same footsteps I had heard before, but louder, more insistent, more menacing. We both heard it. Mike froze, his eyes wide with disbelief and terror. He finally understood that I wasn't crazy, that something truly sinister was happening. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He nodded, his face pale with fear. We stood up, walked slowly toward the hallway. Cautiously, hesitantly, our hearts pounding in our chests. We knew what we were going to see, but we couldn't look away. And there he was, standing in the hallway just as I had described him. Tall, dark, and menacing, a figure of pure dread. Mike whispered, "What the hell is that?" His voice was barely audible, a mixture of fear and disbelief. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing, but he knew it was something evil. I was shaking, trembling with fear. "He's real. You see him too," I said, my voice barely a whisper. It was a validation, a confirmation that I wasn't alone in this nightmare. The man got closer, slowly, deliberately, as if he was enjoying our fear. Each step brought him closer to us, closer to our breaking point. In a moment of desperation, Mike threw a glass at him. It went right through him, shattering against the wall behind him as if he wasn't even there. The man kept walking, step by step, undeterred, unaffected, as if the glass had passed through empty air. His eyes were fixed on us, his gaze unwavering. Mike screamed, "We gotta get out!" He knew we were in danger, that we had to escape before it was too late. But I couldn't move. It's like something was holding me in place, paralyzing me with fear. I was trapped, unable to escape the gaze of the tall man. Suddenly, Mike grabbed me, pulled me out the door, and we ran into the street. He didn't hesitate, he just acted, saving me from whatever fate awaited me in that apartment. We didn't go back that night. We spent the night in a cheap motel, too afraid to return to the apartment. The image of the tall man was burned into our minds, a constant reminder of the terror we had experienced. The next morning, we returned to grab some stuff. We needed clothes, toiletries, the basic necessities, but we were dreading going back, knowing that the tall man might still be there. The landlord was waiting outside looking concerned. He seemed to know something was wrong, as if he had seen this happen before. I asked him, "Do you know anything about this place, about a man in the hallway?" I was desperate for answers, for some explanation of what we had seen. He looked at me, dead serious, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear. He knew more than he was letting on. "You mean the tall man? He's been seen here for years." His voice was low, almost a whisper, as if he was afraid of being overheard. "People say, If you see him more than 3 times, you can't leave him behind. He follows you wherever you go. It's a curse, a haunting that never ends. I asked, wait, what do you mean he follows? I didn't understand. How could a ghost follow you from place to place? The landlord said, he lives with you now. His words sent a chill down my spine. I was trapped, haunted by a presence I couldn't escape. I moved out that same day. I couldn't stay there any longer, knowing that the tall man was still lurking in the shadows. But you know what's funny? Or maybe not so funny. More like terrifying. Even now in my new apartment far away, miles away from that old building, in a completely different part of the city, I still see him. He's still there, lurking in the shadows, a constant reminder of the terror I experienced in the hallway, waiting for me, watching me, his presence a constant weight on my soul, in the mirror, staring back at me, a distorted reflection of my own fear, at night, when the darkness descends and the shadows come alive. Right now, as I tell you this, as I share my story with you, hoping to find some solace, some understanding. I can hear his breathing behind me. The sound is faint, almost imperceptible, but I know it's there. A constant reminder that I'm not alone. I don't live alone anymore. He's always with me. A silent, menacing presence that I can't escape. If you see someone in your hallway at night, don't blink. Don't acknowledge him. Don't let him see you. Because if you do, he might never leave you alone. Subscribe for more true scary stories. And maybe, just maybe, you'll learn how to avoid becoming the next victim of the tall man.